All right, folks, welcome to another XenTegra webinar Wednesdays. I got a great guest today. We have SecurEnvoy on the phone, and we are going to be talking about, are passwords really secure? So we're going to take a little tour of the SecurEnvoy product and kind of discuss the conundrum called passwords. All right, so I got a great panel today. Hopefully some of you know me. My name is Pete Downing. I'm the CMO, CTO for XenTegra. And on the phone with me, I have Doug Chase, who's the Vice President of the Americas for SecurEnvoy. I have Michael Urgio, who is the Director of Engineering and Demo Master for SecurEnvoy. And then I also have Scott Kaplan on the phone, who runs sales here in the Americas as well. So we have a great panel of folks, a lot of smart folks on the line, and looking forward to jumping in to talk about SecurEnvoy. So here's our agenda for today. I always like to start off with a couple interactive polls with the audience. So we'll have those pop up in a second. And then we're going to jump right into showing you guys, giving you a little overview, and then showing off the product. And then I'll finally cap it off with a little insight into who is XenTegra if you're not familiar with us. And as always, I encourage questions throughout the GoToWebinar because we want to make this as interactive and have questions be context-based. So there is the Q&A dialogue. So that brings me to my next slide. So we are on GoToWebinar. Everybody right now on the line is muted. And then if you do have a question, you can throw it into the question dialogue box, and I am going to be paying attention to that. I will interject questions where I see fit. So please ask questions today, and all questions get recorded, which is kind of nice. And then, if we can't get to your questions, we will get the answers after the webinar as well. All right, so a couple polls for you guys. So just to make sure everybody's not falling asleep and paying attention. So first poll is very easy. Do you have a MFA solution in place? So do you have a multi-factor authentication solution in place? And again, we can't see who's answering, so don't worry. But again, this is more for us just to kind of see how we should drive the conversation. And I'm going to give it about 20 seconds or so. I'd like to get 80% participation if possible. So if I can, I'll give it a couple more seconds. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. So we're going to share. So almost 50-50 split. So about 50% of you don't have a solution in place, but considering, and the other 50% have a solution in place, but hopefully you're either exploring other options or you're just curious to see where SecurEnvoy differs from what you currently have in place. All right, so let's talk about external access. So do you offer any type of client or vendor access? Are you in healthcare? Are you in maybe finance? And do you have a 2-factor solution in place? And again, if you don't, just say no. And again, I'll give it about 20 seconds, and we'll go from there. All right, going once, going twice, a couple more answers, going 3 times. And so a good chunk of you say, yes, you do offer some type of portal access to clients and or vendors. So we'll touch a little bit upon where SecurEnvoy can help with that, especially in the healthcare and finance space as well. And we'll discuss that, right? All right. This is more of a statement. So my end users, and it's more, to see what you guys think of your enterprise, right? So my end users use the same passwords across their personal and business applications, and it's referred to self-synchronizing is what Michael likes to call it. So, yeah, it's a little leading question, but curiosity to see if anybody disagrees. It'd be fun to be in a room and debate this, but we'll see what the answers come out with. So give about 20 seconds or so, and we'll let this answers come in. Going once. Don't be afraid, guys. Again, I can't see names or anything, so don't worry. All right. So 50-50. So it's interesting. I think, we'll talk a little bit about passwords and, the big issue that a lot of users have. And, if you think about it, your users are, have bad habits, right? And so, they might use the same password across Google, Dropbox, and then use that same password maybe to log on to, I don't know, maybe ShareFile or OneDrive, right? So just that's where that question stemmed from. All right, final question: are you currently using Office 365? And just more of a market research question than anything, but using it with Exchange on-prem? Are you guys using it with Exchange Online? You're currently deploying, or it's on the radar, or hey, you're using Google Chrome Enterprise, which I like getting those answers because it's kind of cool to see if people are using Google Chrome Enterprise. Again, I can't see who's answering, so don't be afraid to answer. The more answers we get, the better. Give it a couple more seconds. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. So a good chunk of you are using Office 365 with Exchange Online. So pretty cool. And then a small portion of you are using it with on-prem. Some of you are currently deploying. And if you have any questions on Fast Track, definitely reach out. You should definitely take advantage of that. And if it's on the radar, definitely reach out. We can help you with some ammunition to help you get it deployed a little faster. All right, so let's continue forward. So thank you for participating on the polls. That just kind of helps us drive the conversation a little more detailed and helps keep this webinar interesting. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to jump into the overview of SecurEnvoy, and Doug Chase is going to take us through the overview of who is SecurEnvoy and where they fit in the MFA space. So over to you, Doug.
Great, thank you. Let me just, okay, good. So first off, we want to thank Pete Downing from XenTegra for inviting us to participate in his webinar Wednesdays. So we know they're a popular feature of his, and as one of our very strong partners, we always appreciate the opportunity to be able to tell our story and the story of where passwords are at in general. So thank you for the forum. As Pete mentioned, my name is Doug Chase. I'm the VP of the Americas for SecurEnvoy. And with us, we also have Mike Agero, and Mike is my Director of Engineering, who's the guy that keeps me honest and runs through the technical portion of it. So just a little, I'm going to run through this as briefly as I can, but there are some pretty salient points, I think. So with SecurEnvoy, we were founded in 2003 in the UK. We have our US headquarters here in Naperville, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. We were one of the original inventors and pioneers of tokenless two-factor authentication. So one of our founders, Andy Kemschall, who worked for RSA, decided he didn't like carrying and losing tokens. So we created a method by which to deliver a soft token to SMS, and the rest was history, as they say. So as of right now, we have thousands of customers globally, well over 100,000 users using our product. We are global. In 2017, we were acquired by the Shearwater Group, which actually made some significant investments in personnel and innovations within the product. So that was a pretty exciting development for us. We are a Citrix Sortie Premier partner as well as Nigel technology partner, as is XenTegra. So the reason we're talking about passwords is because 81% of all data breaches are caused by hacked and weak passwords. And this has been a statistics that has pretty much hasn't changed over the years. This is from the Verizon 2017 data breach, but the Verizon 2018, which just came out, bears that out as well. 75% are perpetrated by outsiders. Almost a quarter involve financial institutions, followed by the usual suspects, healthcare, public sector, retail, and hospitality, because that is where the money is. So in the context of passwords, usernames and passwords are the lowest hanging fruit. And I say this often, is that hackers, if they're trying to breach an organization, they're not going to go through the trouble, some might, but most don't have to, of going through intrusion detection systems and VPNs and breaking through firewalls and that type of thing. What they're really after are usernames and passwords, because they know that is the quickest or the shortest distance between 2 points, right? Which is logging into the infrastructure and then getting assets to that infrastructure. Users usually have terrible passwords. I notice I'm a user and I have a terrible password. Complicated passwords encourage calls to help desk. So even when organizations try to impose, cybersecurity best practices, sometimes that can backfire. Users have all the access, right? So they have access to the internal applications. They have access, the admins have access to the infrastructure. They have access to their employee portals, everything, right? So it all begins with the user. Normal human behavior is easily exploited. So hackers know, for the most part, that end users have bad passwords, and they also know that it's the easiest way to be able to breach an organization, as we've discussed. And change is hard, so trying to impose something new and unique from a cybersecurity perspective is very difficult to introduce to an end user community who's used to doing things a certain way. So these are all the different ways, of course, password spraying as well, but brute force, spidering, keyloggers, shoulder surfing, phishing emails, right? All of these things, conspire to get access to the username and passwords. The hackers are very sophisticated about this, and they use it to great effect. So when we talk about the future of passwords, these are some of the best practices, right? So organizations want to impose password complexity. So we want to encourage or force end users to use special characters and longer passwords and introduce a level of complexity that end users generally resist. So this results in forgotten passwords and lots of calls to help desk. You can prohibit dictionary names. We've seen some of that as well, which also increases the complexity and increases confusion, because now you have end users trying to guess what the cybersecurity professionals in their organization want. And that takes time, creates confusion, certainly increases frustration. The forced time password changes, right? So we want to change your password every 3 months. Generally speaking, an end user will just use a variation of the same password, right? So if their password was Apple 1, they're going to come up with Apple 2 and Apple 3 and Apple 4, right? So that's not really great. Encrypted passwords, spotty success, hackers like the challenge. And for the most part, they're going to perhaps have access already into your Active Directory domain usernames and passwords. So it's probably already out there. And then prohibit password reuse, which, of course, increases everything from a complexity standpoint, from a help desk standpoint, to people putting up sticky notes on their things. So passwords, as a general rule, are not going to go away. But they're very much a moving target for organizations to try to impose best practice on, right? So passwords are going to be with us for a while. They're absolutely the first line of defense, and it's certainly better than nothing. So as long as you have an Active Directory account, or somebody is going to be logging in online, you're going to have a username and a password, and we don't see that changing in the foreseeable future. The hacker's prime target is the username and password database. So if you go on the dark web, you will find volumes and volumes and volumes of spreadsheets and what have you that have the usernames and passwords of major organizations. So for the most part, the stuff is already out there. Best practices are important. So everything that we looked at as a best practice above are good things to do. And it's absolutely better than doing nothing. But it does introduce a level of complexity into the end user's life that can create its own separate set of challenges. And from where we're coming from, supplementation is crucial, right? Because when you add a second factor or a multi-factor component onto a normal password type of event, it reduces the dependence on the complexity of all the best practices that we're looking at above. Right? Because if you look at multi-factor authentication, which is not a mystery technology, it's been out for quite some time. However, that unique token is yours and yours alone, regardless of what your password is. So your password could be password, and it wouldn't matter unless you have that secure token. A combination of both is best. And we do see multi-factor authentication continuing to innovate and improve, and that includes us, so biometrics, facial recognition, geolocation, things like that. So the supplementation to the password that's not going to be going away for the most part are going to have some pretty innovative things that will, I think, do a tremendous amount to curb the type of data breaches that are so prevalent. So once again, multi-factor authentication, it's not a mystery technology. We've all used it in our professional lives, but essentially it's introducing a second component to a secure login event, right? So the first factor is your username and password. The second factor is going to be something else that uniquely identifies you as you. That could be a biometric, that could be a physical token, it could be a virtual soft token on an app, right? But it introduces that second factor that uniquely identifies you as you. And it is probably one of the least expensive, most powerful ways that you can protect your organization. So those without multi-factor authentication, I highly encourage you investigate the technology and investigate the type of products that are out there. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the initial problem with single factor, it's easily compromised. Passwords are notoriously weak. None of these are surprises. The users reject 4 strong passwords. Hackers pretty much already know what your username and password is. So if you're an organization of basically any size, chances are the environment has already been breached in some way, shape, or form. And more specifically, the Active Directory usernames and passwords have already been compromised. Some of the more common use case scenarios. So when Pete did his poll, we see some people using multi-factor authentication. We see some people that are not using it. So it's a mix that we anticipated. But some of the more common use cases that we see for this type of product, is credit unions want customer support to challenge members. So we were working with a credit union who were the victims of fraud over a period of time, and that was through bad actors literally calling in to customer service with stolen credentials, pretending to be that individual, and then stealing money. We see a lot of healthcare needs to impose controls over external vendors, partners, and labs. So if you're a healthcare organization, it's awesome that you are protecting logins to the employees and the physicians and the nurses, but what about the people that hospital does business with? What about the entry points, for say a cancer screening lab or a blood work lab, or any of the regional medical centers that need to get access to that? Are those being covered? Law firms, we're seeing a big uptick in protecting intellectual assets, retail, of course, manufacturing, education, government. All of these organizations have very specific and unique needs, but they're also common, right? They're also common across it. So one of the things that we do when we talk to people that are already using multi-factor authentication is to start getting them to think about other ways that they can use it, because frankly, any login event in your environment is a potential gateway for a hacker, and certainly vulnerable. When you're looking at products like this, one of the most important things is how can we make it easy for the end user, right? So, and ways that we make it easy for the end user is to provide a seamless way for them to authenticate into their environment. For the most part, push notifications to a mobile device is the easiest way, right? So somebody goes to log in, they get a little notification that pops up on their phone, accept or deny, they accept it, and they're securely logged in. But not everyone is created equal. So some people want to have a voice call. Some people will always like SMS text messages, even though it's not the most secure. They want to have a little pop-up on their operating system, on their desktop that allows them to securely log into, desktop applications. So the biggest questions that most organizations ask themselves from a multi-factor authentication standpoint isn't necessarily how is this thing deployed, but how are we going to deploy it to our end users? And that's an important consideration. From a SecurEnvoy standpoint, we have 3 different ways potentially that you could deploy it. We can do it on-premise, we can do it as a virtual security appliance, we can do it as the cloud. And this is important because most vendors make you choose, or at least force you into their way of thinking when it comes to deploying this type of technology in the infrastructure. We see some organizations that really like on-premise, right? They want to own the product, they want it sitting on their own servers behind their own firewalls, and they want to manage it because they know that's potentially the most secure, right? They're not praying that the cloud service provider that they're using isn't going to get hacked or compromised. They have 100% control. The virtual security appliance, where everything is pretty much pre-built, it's plug and play, and is one step more secure than the on-premise technology. And then the secure managed cloud, of course, which is the application, the SecurEnvoy application running on our servers, and then we offer this as a service. Common. So the bottom line with this, right? So multi-factor authentication as a concept dramatically improves security for very reasonable costs. Once again, it's probably the least expensive, most value that you will get from a cybersecurity product. Being able to have multiple authentication methods to suit user needs. You may have one population that really wants, that you want to deploy the mobile secure application to, for them to get their token. You may have others within a population that want SMS. You may want people to have it deployed to their wearables, maybe all of the above, right? We can handle that. So the unique one-time password for each transaction login. This is how you define and how you identify that you are who you say you are. Significantly reduces identity theft. MFA for third-party consultant partners and vendors, and I can't say this enough. While it is great that you are deploying multi-factor authentication to your employees, and that's absolutely critical, we do see a lot of missed potential security, cybersecurity best practice when it comes to external people logging into your environment, because that's even more of a danger, frankly, because at least you have control over your employees in your environment. You have no control over the people that are coming externally, and you need to protect yourself. Safer remote worker access. Hackers will move on to easier targets. So if a hacker intuits that you have a multi-factor authentication solution that is protecting your assets, they will simply move on to the next target, which does not. And then lower operational costs via less help desk calls. And the reason for this is because you're becoming less dependent on strong passwords as you become more reliant on the secure unique ID token. And ultimately, that's what makes it easier for the end users. And that is the end of my show. And so now I'm happy to, if there's no immediate questions, and we can take questions at the end, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Mike Ajero, Director of Engineering, to show you what I just told you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Mike. And again, audience, if you have any questions, definitely throw them into the Q&A dialogue. I'll be watching it, and we're going to let Michael do his thing. So thanks, Michael.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to come to the webinar today. My name is Michael. I'm Director of Engineering North America for SecurEnvoy. Today, I am going to walk you guys just through the management console. It's a fairly intuitive product, but I'd like to show some of the simplicity of things. So on the left side of my screen, of course, this is our web-based management interface. On the right side of my screen, you see my phone. I'm going to go ahead and authenticate to the solution. As I do so, you're going to see on the right-hand side what Doug talked about earlier. I'm currently configured to receive push notifications, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see I have accept or decline. I'll accept that request. You'll see this go back to the system and allow me to gain access to the environment. That's very unfortunate. I tested that 9 times before this call. Hang on, it never fails. We'll do it again. All right, so we're going to run through that one more time. All right, there we go. Okay, so as we take a look over the management interface, this is the initial dashboard that people get familiar with. You can see that I've got some successful authentications. You can see I've got some failed authentications. I do show customers what a failed authentication looks like. You got to see that. So down here on the left-hand side, you can see the last 10 events in the log. You can see that my Active Directory password was checked, push notification was sent, I clicked accept, right? So it authorized me to come into the environment. Here on the right-hand side is all of our outbound services. In this dashboard, you can view the last 7, 14, or 30 days. So we'll show the last couple of 30 days. So you can see the numbers change up here at the top. Going further down on the left-hand side, because we do run on the Windows platform, you'll see that we've got some services running. And you can also see that you can restart those services here as you like. Same thing here with the logs. You can view the full log here. Down here on the lower right-hand side, you can see connectivity to the Active Directory, and you can see that I'm communicating with the Active Directory on a secure port for Ldap Secure 636. Down here at the bottom, you'll see that this is normally very jaggedy in the lab because we use this to do demos, but in a standard customer environment, this is of course more leveled off and smooth. It gives you the ability to sort of see the types of issues that may arise with users or any successful high days or days that you might have a problem with authentication where you see a lot of bad authentications or attempts of breach. So starting on the left-hand side, we'll talk about domains and active directories first. So you got a wide variety of different LDAP environments to choose from, including Microsoft's local directory services, LDS, the lightweight directory services. As with any LDAP lookup, it does require at least a minimum of a service account. This is a user-based service account, a non-administrative account, which is good. Down here is the configuration for secure LDAP. You can connect to as many different directories as you like, or as many different LDAP environments as you have. So if you have an organization that has 2 active directories, or if you've acquired a partner or a sister company, whatever, you guys can configure as many of these as you like. Under the configuration, things start to get entertaining and at least interesting when we start to talk about the 14 different ways that we authenticate users. So when a user registers their mobile device, they get the ability to choose what their preferred method of authentication is. So they can choose whatever they like, as long as you've got it allowed here in the console. So they can choose everything from push notifications, near field communication, QR code scanning, huge in China. They do everything in QR codes over there, as well as laptops, PCs, and all the rest of that stuff. A large variety of text and email-based options, including the ability to customize the message that's displayed on the screen for users, going into preload codes and preload 3 codes at a time. Those are good for contractors. Same thing with day codes, good for temporary workers, folks like that you want to bring into the environment. You don't necessarily want to register their device, but you want to give them the same security that other employees have. We also do voice authentication, which is not the fancy Hollywood-based voice authentication you might think. This is sort of multi-factor in reverse. You log in with your username and your password. A 6-digit code is presented on the screen, and then you receive a phone call. And when you answer the phone, you simply use the keypad on the phone to enter the 6 digits that's on the screen, and you hang up to authenticate, which is kind of neat. And of course, physical tokens, for those who need them, we are compatible with the Yubikey line of solutions. Yubikey is a USB key that sits into the laptop or desktop, and you simply provide a touch or biometric to authenticate. Temporary and static codes, of course, you'll find that as you go through this management console that we only have one version of the product. This is the enterprise version. Everyone gets the same thing. You get the ability as the administrator of your environment to choose what you want to allow or disallow in the environment. So you guys will get the ability of sort of determining what your users are comfortable with. You know them best. You can determine, hey, look, they're not going to use either of these. We'll turn those off, or, maybe we have a few. So that's always good, leaving you in as much control as possible. Skipping down to account lockout. For those customers that have large environments, when you've got more than a couple hundred users, we know, because this is all we do, so we know for 15 years that there's always a certain percentage in every user environment of users that just simply don't register their device. Either they forgot, or they have a problem, or whatever the case is. So we give you the ability to sort of manage how they can continue access post deadline. So if you want to, saying that let's say you have to have this deployed by the end of the month, and it's for a compliance purpose, you got to have it all done by the 1st. We'll go ahead and give the employees 15 days to register their device. We'll notify them 3 days prior to that with a reminder that they need to register their device. This is here because as you begin to register users later on under group deployment or individual deployment, we send them a welcome email. And that email will include instructions and all kinds of things on, welcome aboard, what to do, how to register your device, and so forth. We don't want that sitting out there forever. So you can give them a limit. This is good because right up here up top of it, we can disable their authentication if they have not authenticated in a period of time. So this gives us the ability to sort of gather the last few stragglers that haven't managed to become compliant and sort of help them get that way. Under the emergency help desk, we do realize that people are human. Obviously, they, I think the statistics are 1 out of 4. So you might find that 20 or 25% of mobile devices are either lost or stolen each year, misplaced, broken, dropped in a parking lot, whatever. These things happen. So during the enrollment process, we invite the user to answer a couple of security questions. We're going to see those in a few minutes. So when they provide their username and their password and 2 security questions, we then allow them the ability to give themselves sort of a temporary fix, right? They can give themselves a temporary passcode that'll be good in this case for 15 days, and they can only use this emergency help desk access method once a year. You can change those settings to best suit your environment. But the way I look at it is that if Doug throws his phone against the wall more than once a year, we should probably have a talk. So under group deployment is fairly simple. You simply create an Active Directory group, and of course that's if you have a large number of users that you need to deploy at once. You then add users or nest groups into this group. And when we see adds and removes, we of course do one of 2 things. We either send out the welcome email inviting them to register their mobile device, or we can disable their multi-factor account. Disabling of 2-factor does not mean disabling of Active Directory. So we don't actually disable an account in the Active Directory. So for those of you that I saw in the poll provide remote access methods either through a browser or a VPN, this would simply disable their ability to log in remotely while maintaining their ability to come into the office and log in. So that's one of the reasons that we like to under the account lockout settings. It's one of the reasons we like to disable the enrollment request if they've not been compliant within a certain period of time. It's also the reason that we like to disable authentication if we've not seen them, if they're not using the VPN often enough, right? So you can put whatever value you want in there. So that rounds up the emergency help desk. That runs up group deployment. Logging for our system is fairly straightforward. Again, we are running on the Microsoft platform. We do that for a variety of reasons. The primary reason is that we want to make sure that we are as flexible in the data center as possible. So we have a downloadable product that Doug showed you. We have a virtual security appliance that's running on 2016 core that's hardened, and we also have a cloud-based service. Any one of those 3 things makes us the most flexible in the data center. Most notably, being on a Windows platform is actually quite good because it affords you the ability to not have to learn a proprietary version of Linux. You can use the 20 or more years that you have in the Windows space, learning how to manage it, support it, do all the bits. You can also deploy your monitoring agents, and you can monitor the solution just like you would any other Windows server. So it gives you the ability to sort of really be comfortable with what you're implementing. So we do record, of course. We have a verbose log that we record. We also send details over to the Microsoft event log. And as you can see, we also can send out to a syslog server right here if you guys wanted to do that. And you can just put the IP address to your syslog server there. For those customers that are doing any sort of internal application development, we do have a RESTful API. So our API guide is only 17 pages. A lot of it is simple to do. Any developer that works in the .NET space and those various languages will be able to use that guide to make calls over here to our system. So if you have any internally developed applications, we certainly won't have a problem communicating with those. Your developers could integrate multi-factor right into the solution that they're developing for you. Some miscellaneous GUI settings if you want to see some additional things or not, and those vary by administrator. Email settings are fairly straightforward. We just need an SMTP gateway to get messages out. You can require or not require authentication. And of course, one of the important things for me as a fellow administrator and engineer is full control over the URL, right? So since we do offer a couple of different web portals that I'm going to walk you through, it's important that we're in control as engineers of our SSL certificate, where we buy it, what the encryption strength of that certificate is. So you're not a subdomain of someone else's platform. This gives you complete control over what you do here to be compliant with your environment. Gateways are straightforward. So we do, as you saw earlier in the authentication methods, a variety of different types of options for authentication. In this particular view, what I'm looking at here is SMS text-based authentication, and I'm using a service provided to me by AQL. What I've done here is I've restricted this down to only providing text into certain countries. So this is England, North America, and Germany. You can restrict things like that as well. Same thing goes for voice. Push notifications don't have any restriction. That's unfortunately by the provider, but we do offer all three major push notifications. As we do offer Radius as a service. So we are the Radius provider as well. So for things simply like the NetScaler, for example, all we do is go ahead and provide a shared secret here. We go to the NetScaler and we simply add an authentication method to our configuration for our virtual server. We remove the Ldap configuration and provide a Radius one so that all authentication for the NetScaler goes here for users that are using that virtual server. And then we do all the bits, right? We go and check the Active Directory for you. We'll go ahead and check the two-factor requirement for you, and then return a positive or negative response back to the NetScaler, allowing the user to come in. Ironically enough, if you have any sort of advanced requirements, you can, of course, do this by group. So you can nest in a group so that only certain groups are allowed to authenticate. You can even provide trusted networks. So a lot of Citrix customers are using the NetScaler for both internal and external users. This affords you the ability to bypass the internal users simply by putting the trusted networks and VLANs on this in this list. And then so that way, you know, if Jimmy is in the office, he's not prompted, but if he goes home and comes into the NetScaler, he is prompted. That affords you the ability to do that. Ironically enough, if we look at this OpenVPN server, for example, if you have an application that's database driven, where you are using a database or a SQL or Oracle database to do all of the authentication, we can consider that done ahead of time. So I can reverse these two checkboxes. And what this top one means is that when I get a request here at SecurEnvoy, that the username and password has already been cleared. So if you guys have integration that you want to do with a system that you've developed and it happens to run on Oracle, and it happens to have a web interface, we can utilize the username and password that you've already got cleared, and we can receive that here and just simply go and do the multi-factor check for that user and return back a positive or negative response. So doing this in the reverse gives you the ability to utilize internal authentication mechanisms as well. Going over here towards users, I'll do a quick lookup. I'll grab myself because I have the most features currently available. So if you look at me, you'll see that I've got 0 failed logins. You'll see that I am currently enabled. You'll see I'm a permanent user, not temporary. You'll see that I'm a full administrator. There are various levels. Our administrative guide goes into the differences of them all. You'll see that I'm allowed to use my laptop offline. This will be important for one of our conversations in a bit. It allows me to authenticate using my mobile device with my laptop entirely offline of the network. So on a plane at 40,000 feet, I can authenticate repetitively and for eternity without having to use like a preloaded series of codes. You can see here that I am keeping my mobile number private. This avoids the population of my mobile phone number into the global address list for Exchange. I don't want to get calls on Sunday. I'm sure you don't either. Down here, you can see that my preference is currently on Android. I'm using the soft token. I currently have an Android phone registered. The administrator can override these settings for me at any time. So if you take a look, as an administrator, they could just get a call from a user and they can just simply change any of these properties. You'll see that I do have a Yubikey registered, and that's my serial number. So I've got a couple of different ways that I can authenticate right out of the box. We do offer near field communication, so anybody that does have like an NFC pad, or if you have a laptop that has an NFC pad built in, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of modern laptops do have an NFC pad built in. But if you have one, you can certainly use it for kind of a tap and authenticate process. Our log viewer, fairly straightforward. Everything is in, I like to say English because it's easy to read. You can see all the things that are happening with the environment. You'll be able to scroll down and see all the different stuff that's going on. If you want to filter for a user's activity, that's actually awesome and easy as well. all you have to do is begin the process of putting a user account name in here, and you'll see that this will refresh and show you everything that I've done in the recent couple of hours. You can see I was testing and testing and testing. Under reporting is we've got a couple of good canned reports. So you got the basics that you can of course look at. So you can run a report really easily and see kind of how users are authenticating to the system, what methods that they use, that sort of thing. So that's really good. You can also run based on a custom filter or use any of the other couple of reports that we have. General alerting, this usually goes to a default mailbox for alerts, but in this case in the lab, they all go to me. You can have them go to different places if you like. You can even have them go to more than one email if you like. Moving down to SecurPassword, this is an important feature of our product because this allows you to authorize Active Directory password changes using two factors. So when a user decides they want to change their password, this prompts them on their phone, are you sure you want to change the password? They have to hit accept or decline. So this again helps to protect the environment from unwanted stuff. So down here on the lower left, you'll see that the reason I haven't upgraded this system, I'm running 93502, but I didn't upgrade this system yet because I want to be able to show customers what the notification for the upgrade looks like. So that we put that in green down here for you so you can kind of see that. Over here, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through what a typical registration might look like. So I'm going to log into that. You guys will see the very familiar prompt on my phone. I'll accept it. This is in response to what the users normally get as an email. It gives them this web address, gives them a temporary 6-digit code that they can use because they don't have anything yet. And then they're presented with this. This allows them to sort of choose what methods they want to authenticate, and it affords them the ability to answer the security questions as they want. So you'll see all of these things in the list, and there's quite a few of them. All of these methods are available because I've checked them all off underneath the configuration over here under authentication types. So the more I check in here, the more options are available over here. See, so you get to control as the administrator what's allowed, what your users are able to select. I can then choose the authentication type that I would like to prefer. I can answer my secret questions, and then I can wrap up and be done, and then I'm finished. The mobile device app that we have over here is relatively self-explanatory, but it is easy, but I like to show it for a couple of reasons. Down here, you'll see that there's a QR code. All that they have to do is click set up my mobile app. All they do is click add here, and then they just simply say scan QR code. And what that does is then they just point it at the screen, they scan this code. It's a very familiar process, and then boom, it's done. They come away with this, they're connected to the environment, and they get this token. Based on the features that you've allowed, they'll be given different buttons down here at the bottom to copy or push. You'll also notice that it's a smart authenticator. So I've actually used the same thing to connect to my Amazon and my Facebook account. So users now have the ability to sort of consolidate all of the various disparate multi-factor environments sort of into one place. So they don't have to have 3 or 4 or 5 different authenticators on their devices. So that about wraps up my demo. For the environment. I'm open to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Yeah, so again, audience, if you have any questions, definitely ask. I'm going to ask a fun question, Michael. So in your experience, what would you say is the top factor that people tend to stick with? And you mentioned China earlier, so I'd say it probably varies region to region, but in your experience, what's typically a top factor? And then if you were going to make a recommendation, what do you feel is the most secured?
So push notifications are generally the most popular.
Yep.
People don't like. Well, I should say there's probably a higher percentage of people that don't like receiving a text message and having to enter the codes manually. They have to look up and down from the screen. They have to go into their text messaging. They have to do all kinds of things. Push notifications keep that fairly simple, and it's consistent. So when they log into a web portal, they get pushed. When they log into a VPN, they still get pushed. When they log into a server in the data center that has one of our security agents running on it, they get pushed. So the method is consistent until they fail.
Okay.
As you saw with my initial login attempt, for whatever reason, my phone was delayed in getting a response back. So after a couple of seconds, when the server doesn't see a response, it just simply prompts you to enter the code manually. And so this serves, using push serves as two things. It gives you the primary and the secondary methods of authentication in the same shot. So if you don't get to your phone in time, or it's in your backpack, or it's out in the car, or whatever, you can walk away from the VPN, grab your phone, come back, and by the time the timeout happens, you'll be able to then just enter the codes manually. Now, those things are all set up under the authentication methods. When you look at push, you'll see that those things are all set up here. I give myself roughly 19 seconds. So the administrator can extend that to be 5 minutes if they want, but most of the time they try to keep this tight. So this affords you the ability to get that done.
Sweet. And then maybe I missed it, but just a question that comes to mind is, the what if, right? So not that I'm probably ever going to forget my cell phone, but what if I forget my cell phone? Is there other options to log in?
Yeah, there certainly are. So if you forgot your phone at home, like we're all human, this happens, that's not a big deal. But if you take a look under the config here, we do have the emergency help desk. You answered 2 security questions when you authenticated the first time and registered your mobile device. So all you have to do is go to the emergency help desk and just simply, username, password, answer those 2 security questions and log in. This will give you the ability to generate a sort of your own code. You can generate any 6-digit code you want, and you can use that for, in my case, up to 15 days.
Okay.
But you can only do this once a year. Now, the administrator can change that. So again, that goes to the flexibility of the solution. If that doesn't work, or if you have a very picky user that just calls the help desk,
Yep.
the administrator of the system can very easily jump down into your user account and can go down here and just issue a code, right? So you can give a user a temp code or a static code for a period of days, right? So I could just say your code is going to be, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and give you 3 days, and then check the box device not lost. And then that way I know, well, he just forgot his phone at home and whatever, or lost it at an airport and he's got to go back and pick it up. So this gives the administrator options, to be able to manage the user environment well.
Cool. All right. Again, audience, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to jump in and do kind of the wrap up. But at the end of the day, if any more questions pop to mind, put them in the Q&A dialogue, and we can definitely cover them. One of the things I want to definitely show is if you go to www.SecurEnvoy.com, you'll notice that they have this great section on their site called integration guides, and you can see, they do have a lot of great integration scenarios from Office 365 to Citrix to Azure to Microsoft, etc. And you can just go right to their site and easily just click on any of these links. So for example, I can click on Citrix. They give a little summary and then download the doc. So they keep it really cut and dry for you guys to integrate with the various solutions that you have out there. So definitely check some of these integrations out. They do a lot of integration points with some of the more important vendors that are out there today. So really quickly, just who is XenTegra and just a quick wrap up. So if there's any questions at all, please put them in the Q&A dialogue. I am paying attention to it. We'll definitely get to your question before we wrap up. Now, again, this is, Andy, our founder and CEO. He founded XenTegra on 2 premises. One, he wanted to enable his customer base. So when he was a SE at Citrix, he and I both worked at Citrix for a period of time. He noticed 2 things. One, customers would own these great stacks of solutions, but didn't have the background and enablement to get them running or have them run efficiently in their environment. And 2, he noticed partners like us, weren't really partnering. And so he wanted to change the game on how and what a partner is. So he started XenTegra, where he started off with the goal of, hey, I want to provide training for my end users and also form true partnerships with companies like SecurEnvoy, Citrix, and others. So you guys obviously got either my email or you hit our website, but definitely bookmark this page. We do a lot of events. We do a lot of free events, everything from hands-on training online to on-premise to webinars every Wednesday. I try to do two webinars a month with different vendors. And again, they're all free, and they range from an hour of your time all the way up to a day's worth of your time. So definitely check out XenTegra.com /events. We are going to be growing the list in the coming week. I got a lot of events coming out for the second half of the year, so keep an eye out for those. So who is XenTegra? Really quickly, yeah, we're a reseller, so we can resell, use SecurEnvoy. Citrix is a handful of other partners, but also we do have a full consulting bench and can come in and help you guys get this stuff up and running, as well as any other things you might have going on in your end user computing environments. Now, the great thing about working with a partner is that, hey, it's multiple solutions, a single vendor with a single invoice. So we can consolidate and build you a nice solution to help you with your digital transformation initiatives. So these are the vendors, and you can see at the top here, Citrix is one of our core vendors. That's what we focus on, and our goal is to enhance Citrix. Microsoft is another key vendor, and I'll explain that in a second. But you can see we do partner with a handful of partners here, and SecurEnvoy is one of our premier two-factor, multi-factor authentication partners. So you're going to see a lot of noise with XenTegra and SecurEnvoy in 2019. Also, alongside of our traditional, what you'd call VAR or reseller space, we also do what's called a managed service. So we do have a full managed service stack. We can manage your Azure deployments. We have our own private cloud, and then we have a handful of managed service offerings within our managed service stack. So if you have any questions on that, definitely reach out. And then also we can provide support. So if you're interested in using us as a support arm for your business, whether it's Citrix or other types of support, we do have a full support help desk to do tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 support. So it's something to keep in the back of your minds. We are a Microsoft Gold partner, and we're also a Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider partner as well. So definitely we have a great relationship with Microsoft. And as you saw, SecurEnvoy does integrate with both, so it's a great complementary solution. And here's just a handful of our customers. We have a lot of great customers. We love our customers. We invest heavily in our customers. So you can see we cover the gamut as far as verticals, size, etc. No customer's too small. And yes, we do specialize in certain verticals, but we also cover any and all verticals as well. So as you sit here today, a couple things to think about. If you want to get a further demo or deeper dive, definitely reach out. We can plan it. We can get you a deeper demo. If you're interested in acquiring SecurEnvoy, we can quote it out and work with you to acquire it. And then finally, we can help you facilitate and get it up and running, which you're going to find it's actually pretty easy. And so Michael will tell you it's a very easy solution to get up and running, especially if you start with the cloud-based solution. And finally, I just want to put this out there. SecurEnvoy is actually sponsoring our great dinner that we do at Synergy. We do it on the first night of Synergy, Monday night. But that said, if you do have a Citrix renewal coming up within now and I'd say end of June, please let us know, because we take those renewal dollars and we invest them back into you. So example, if you renew with us, let's say today, you're going to get a percentage of those dollars back, a rebate, and you can use those to attend Citrix Synergy. So you pay for your pass, in some cases pay for multiple passes, or pay for your pass, hotel, and flight. And there's a lot. I see a couple customers on the phone today. Definitely take advantage of this because we love to invest in our customer base. Parallel to that, if you are interested in going Synergy and you don't have a renewal coming up, I can get you a discount, a pretty deep discount on the Synergy pass. So definitely reach out if you are interested in getting to Synergy. This also goes for some of the other events out there. And if you go to go.xentegra.com/renew, you can see some of the other events we are supporting. All right, again, if you have any questions at all, and I'm going to take a look. All right, so 2 points. So Andy, he's on the call today. He points out, yeah, we have a great series coming up as part of XenTegra. We are going to be doing a Citrix Azure Microsoft workshop where we're going to be taking you through how Citrix and Azure integrate. And we're going to be able to, by the end of the day, you'll see how the 2 products work together. We'll have a fun discussion around Windows Virtual Desktop, and I'll also talk a little bit about SD-WAN and where that fits in as well. And then there is a question from Glenn. So Glenn, and I'll throw this to the sales guys on the phone, so Doug and Scott, he's asking about pricing. So I guess, can you give a little framework on how SecurEnvoy is priced?
Sure. So we are priced per user per year, essentially. And On average, depending on the amount of users, it can range anywhere from $25 to $30 per user per year, give or take. So it's a bit of a sliding scale. Now, the important thing is that is the only pricing consideration you would have with our product. So whatever your best practices for deploying to the infrastructure, setting up high availability pairs, backup, disaster recovery, what have you, that has no impact on the licensing for us, right? So, and the pricing is the same regardless of which way you decide to deploy it. So whether it's in the cloud as a managed cloud solution, virtual security appliance, or the on-prem software, it's all the same, and that's all inclusive. So that also includes maintenance and support. And of course, we'll always be in a position to assist XenTegra in any way that we can for pre and post support. So that's about the best answer I can give for that.
Cool, thank you. Guys,
this is Michael. Let me just jump in and add to what Doug said. It also affords the customer the ability to start with an on-premise solution and migrate it to the cloud, or vice versa. There's no additional charges for any of that. All of our different deployment methods are interoperable with each other, so you can move around. So if you're exploring a cloud strategy, but you're not quite there yet, you need two-factor, you can bring it on site today with the virtual security appliance, and then later when you're ready, you can move it to a cloud solution within our platform, and there's no additional charge for that either.
Awesome. So thank you for that, guys. All right, so we are hitting top of the hour, and I'm going to go to my final couple slides, and if another question pops up, we'll give that final person their Q&A. But first off, I want to thank Doug, Michael, and Scott for jumping on today and giving a great overview on SecurEnvoy. Looking forward to working with you guys further. And as you guys saw, a very easy and elegant solution to get up and running. And there's a lot of different factors that they support, so it makes it a lot more flexible than some of their counterparts out in the industry today. And again, my name is Pete Downing. I'm the CMTO for XenTegra. And again, definitely watch out. We're going to be doing a lot of webinars in the coming months. So I got Uber Agent coming up next. We got a customer that's going to come on in a couple of weeks and talk about how they're using SD-WAN. I'm going to be talking about Citrix Gov Cloud. And I'm also going to do a pre-synergy webinar as well. So some of the topics that are going to be out there. And then we got post-synergy webinar and Printer Logic and EG Innovation, just to name a couple other products that are going to be out there in the next between now and end of June. So we got a busy webinar schedule coming up, so keep an eye out for that. So again, thank you to SecurEnvoy and team. And thank you all for joining us again for another Webinar Wednesdays, and see you guys on the next one. So have a great day and enjoy the rest of your weeks.
Great week.